Welcome into the Fade, another season. I am Clay Travis. She is Kelly Stewart, a.k.a. Kelly in Vegas. I expected to see her rolling around in the muck in Ireland, fighting after her Kansas State team lost on the road against Iowa State. That's the biggest game that has been played so far. So let's start with this, Kelly. It's good to have college football kicking off again. But what was the experience in Ireland like? Are you angry? Upon reflection, are you accepting of what you saw? Take us into the Emerald Isle trip.
First of all, Ireland's a beautiful country. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Great place. Highly recommend everybody goes. There is more to it than just going to pubs. That being said, look, the Aer Lingus Classic was great. I normally am not a soccer stadium girl, Clay, but it was perfect overhang. There was a light mist. Luckily, we got inside of the stadium after I looked like a drowned rat. We sat right underneath. Entrance was amazing, right as the Wildcats were running in. I'm normally kind of picky and I like to sit, more towards the 50-yard line or in club level, but our seats were actually really good for all of the bad action. Right after that dropped punt return, not gonna lie, my attitude kind of shifted like, okay, this is where K-State beats themselves. And subsequently, we could argue they got out coached. The Avery Johnson slander was a little weird to me because 21 of 30, no real mistakes, nothing crazy happened. Nice couple of lobs down for touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. But yeah, I would say our defense disappointed me a little bit on a couple of times. They got burnt, but flat out got out coached. And that's what Matt Campbell does to the Wildcats, right? Now 6-0 against the spread, 5-1 straight up. So kudos to Iowa State. Their fan base is pretty impeccable. And you mentioned wanting to fight people. That's what KU fans do, Clay. They like to fight people. Oh, nobody knew that Avery Johnson's dad and brother were KU fans. Funny. That's why they don't wear purple to K-State games, guys. Pay more attention. And all jokes aside, I wanted to fight everybody after that game, but I was with Aunt Helen. And so I just had to behave myself and put my head down and do the walk of shame back to we'll call it the city center, I think is what they call it over there.
All right, we're recording on Thursday, as we will most of the season for college football in the NFL. NFL kicks off a week from today, but there's a bunch of college football games tonight. In fact, not college football, but as soon as I finish this show, I'm pretty much hopping in a car. My ninth grader has got a football game, so I will be going to watch the second game of his season. And Kelly, I imagine you will be watching some games tonight because I don't have any bets tonight. I was looking. I don't think I bet anything Thursday night. I've got my 12 picks up. We'll get into them for college football. But what do you like tonight?
Yeah, I looked at USF really hard, Clay. I wanted to make a case for them against Boise State. I think a lot of what we see week one is fading the hype we saw from the summer, right? Ashton Johnson, we're going to see how much he is missed there, but I do think that's a little too many points. One of the games I did play, however, was Cincinnati plus 6.5. Another thing that people need to keep in mind for week one, we have a ton of neutral site games, right? I first looked at this game. I brushed over Cincinnati, thought, nah, we're all right here. Someone said, Kelly, the game's being played in Arrowhead. Pay attention. Sure enough, neutral site game. This is a lot to ask for Dylan Raiola. He's going to be fanboying it out there in Arrowhead. We're going to see if he can hang out there in the bright lights. I do say this. Nebraska does tend to travel well. And so this may feel like a home game for them. But Dana Holgerson, remember now he left West Virginia, Houston. Now we're going to see what he can do back in the offensive coordinator position. I just don't know. I don't know if he's got it in him anymore. I will say this. As far as we look towards Cincinnati, they now have Oklahoma State's offensive coordinator. So keep in mind, see if we don't see a revamped offense here. I think both teams could air the ball out here. If you don't like Cincinnati, no problem. Maybe look towards the over. I know that a lot of hype is surrounding Nebraska in this top 20 class of recruits and transfers, but I think they're getting just a little too much love here in this number. There's a reason why it's not over a touchdown.
I love Nebraska fans. I think there's an argument that if you consider it, and I know you grew up in Kansas, so you had a lot of experience around the Nebraska success, Kelly, that they are probably the most tortured fan base in college football relative to the historic level of success they had in the 90s, because most of the successful teams in the 90s, I know like Tennessee, which I'm a fan of, has not won a national championship, but they've had 11 win seasons, playoff berths, been in the contention for the 4-team playoff. Nebraska really hasn't been relevant as a Big Ten program. And really, since Tom Osborne left,
Nailed
remember,
it.
they've just been really struggling to get over like that 9-win hump, whether it was with, well, it was not Petrino, what was the guy's name, who was there forever. And then they obviously had Frank Solich back in the day. And Pelini, Bo Pelini.
Pelini,
They just never have
yeah.
really been over to get. Remember the Pelini era where they, no matter what, they hated him. And so anyway,
it didn't matter
I would
because
like
he
to
was
see
never going to be
Nebraska
Tom
good
Osborne.
again.
Clay, listen, Nebraska is K-State of the North in a different way. Kansas State is never going to have another Bill Snyder, and Nebraska is never going to have another Tom Osborne. If that's the only way you can recruit, that's the only way you can win national championships, you got an uphill battle. I do think Matt Rule is riding the ship there in Lincoln. And I will say this, Nebraska fans have been rather patient. You're right. Bo Pelini took a lot of grief, even though he was a winning football coach at the University of Nebraska.
Well, and look, they hired Scott Frost, and they thought he was the savior that was definitely going to return them to past
because
glory.
He played quarterback,
and it just didn't
there?
work. Well, he had
spent
success at Central Florida, and he had a good system, and he had success at Oregon. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That was one that I really expected to work, and I was wrong, but it didn't. But that is a good storyline for tonight. Any other Thursday nights you got?
Nope, that's all I've got for Thursday night. Try to looking for, underdogs again that are going to win outright. That's the name of the game. So those are the two that were on my radar. I didn't end up getting to the window with USF. I got to see a little bit more from that team than we saw last season. We'll see how Boise State fares without their now NFL star running back, excuse me.
Yeah, no doubt. And I believe I'm right about this. The Auburn-Baylor game, I said I didn't have games till Saturday. I'm wrong. I forgot this was a Friday game. To me, this is a super intriguing game. You got Auburn as a roughly 2.5-point favorite. All the numbers that I referenced, by the way, are the numbers that I bet when I put up my picks. So if they move since, that's the reason for this. We're taping this on a Thursday. Kelly, I look at this and I say, Hugh Freeze, after the offseason that he had, has to win this football game. They focused on his golf. They focused on his inability to find a quarterback. They lost. Auburn did a lot of games down the stretch in the fourth quarter last year. Baylor has also not exactly been lighting the world on fire themselves. There's going to be a lot of heat on whoever loses. But ultimately, I just feel like Hugh Freeze is going to get the win here. So I'm taking Auburn -2.5. It's a bet straight on Hugh Freeze. I'm just telling you, I think he's a good coach. I think he's going to get it done. Are you touching this one?
Much like Baylor. Clay, my entire friends group is surrounded with people who love Baylor over 7.5 wins, who love Baylor to sneakily be in the Big 12 championship game. Why? Because what we saw at the end of last season, sure, they went 6-0 straight up and against the spread to close out the season. Kudos to Dave Aranda for saving his job there. The flip side happened to Auburn right after that Cal game that I said they were going to lose outright. The wheels started to just fall off. You absolutely nailed it. Hugh Freeze has to win this football game. They did well in the transfer portal. They have the number 6 class of talent. We're going to see. I don't know, man. This is tough. Jackson Arnold, are we going to see him be better than he was at Oklahoma? I wanted to like Baylor so bad in this spot, Clay. But I'm going to tell you this. When the line comes out at 2.5 and then just stays there, even though the whole world is backing Baylor and being red hot, kind of tells you something you need to know. I'm not going to bet against Baylor in this spot. I do think they are going to have success this year. I do think they're going to win 8 or 9 games. I'm just not sure this is one of them.
I've got Georgia Tech against Colorado. Stop me if you have a strong side of any of these games because they're the non-majors, and then I'm going to come back. I've got the under in Syracuse, Tennessee. You mentioned you like the Vols here. You like Tennessee to cover the 2 touchdowns. Why?
I do. Listen, here's the kind of thing you think about this Tennessee team, right? We're talking about fading the hype. What happened in the offseason? Oh, wait, they lost their starting quarterback. There was a lot of drama surrounding where Nico was going to go, whether he was going to stay. All of these things came into play. But here's a Vols team that I think we need to keep an eye on for this season, right? We're looking at them playing an ACC team. 3-15 outright versus the SEC, by the way, in the last 18 games. How absurd is that? I will sit here on my pulpit and complain that the SEC overhype is real. But when ACC teams put up a number like that, why on earth would you want to back them? I do think that it's a little sneaky line, right? 13.5 makes you think, well, why isn't it 14? Why isn't it 14.5? Well, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people who think Syracuse is going to be a better team. I am not buying the hype with Fran Brown and thinking, hey, this team got a 10-win season. They're going to go right in and put the Vols on upset alert. I just don't see it happening. 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 season openers. This is not a good football team. They showed flashes of it. I think Tennessee is much better, much more well-rounded. I think they are going to win in a rout. And I even wore Tennessee orange, even though it doesn't look like that. Just for you, Clay.
I'm on the under because I think Tennessee's defense will dominate this game. I just don't think Syracuse will have a lot of offensive success. I think Tennessee will pound the rock with a new quarterback, as you mentioned, Joey Aguilar, who hasn't really thrown the ball much. Wide receivers aren't established. Offensive line and defensive line for Tennessee should be really good. And so I think they take command of the trenches, should have probably 80% of the crowd in the dome. So this is a default home game, even though they're playing in Atlanta. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee won big, but I'm more confident that they'll take the air out of this game. Couple of other games out there. I've got Utah, UCLA. I'm taking Utah. This might be just a decision that is in some way partly predicated on hating Nico, but in all seriousness, Kyle Whittingham is really a good defensive coach. I know they've struggled on the offensive side of the ball with inconsistency at quarterback over the past few years. Who's healthy, who's not. It's been a constant problem for Utah. The defense has been consistent. I don't think UCLA has a very good offensive line. I don't think Nico processes information that quickly. I also don't think Nico is a great athlete. He did not make a ton of plays with his legs. I think that partly is factoring in holding the ball too long. I think that Kyle Whittingham and Utah will win this game comfortably. But you like UCLA plus the points. Why?
I do. Listen, Kyle Whittingham's a great coach. You mentioned it. They have a stout defense. And in fact, I like the under in this game as well because UCLA also deserves a ton of credit on defense. Look at that defense last year. They kept them in most games. You mentioned kind of your disdain with Nico, and we're going to brush that aside because I think he's absolutely going to revamp this Bruins offense. They've got a nice running game that now will open up the passing game for him. They got the home edge in the Rose Bowl, 5-0 as non-conference home underdogs against the spread. 6 points here seems right about the right number, but I do think UCLA making bigger plays, more explosive plays than we've seen in the past can stifle this Utah defense. I think the team to score last is going to win. This could easily be a 21-20 final, and I wouldn't be shocked.
You and I think, agree. We disagree on that one. We both have Virginia Tech against South Carolina. A lot of hype for South Carolina. Lenora Sellers, Shane Beamer's team got hot down the stretch. 9-3, was playing, frankly, as well as almost any team in the country by the time the season ended. Virginia Tech, very disappointing year. They lost at Vanderbilt, I think, in week 2 last year. Stumbled their way through the whole season in what was supposed to be a better result than what they got. I think over a touchdown is a big number here. You mentioned SEC versus ACC, and this has not been something where the ACC has done well. But I'm buying the Hokies as a little bit of an underdog here against the South Carolina hype, and I think you're on board as well.
Yeah, Clay, you took the words right out of my mouth. Here's the reality. The Hokies have 12 starters back. Second year, Chiron drones should be better. I think there's a lot of focus on what we saw last year, which is so crazy. Every time I turn on the TV or I listen to another gambling podcast or something, I'm going, why are we so in the age of the transfer portal? I was wipe out everything that we saw from last year. Not everything, but you get the point. Just because they were 6-7 last year and lost to Vandy doesn't have anything to do with this year. I think this is a much more well-rounded team. Yes, 3-7 against the spread versus the SEC does kind of make my stomach do I really want to back this team? But I think I want to fade the Lenora Sellers hype, the South Carolina hype, who lost their top running back, stud wide receiver, and their top 5 tacklers. I mean, this is a neutral site game. Yes, closely, I'm sure it's going to be 2/3 South Carolina, but we're giving way too much advantage here to South Carolina. I like the 7.5. I think the Gamecocks might even be on upset alert.
All right, let's go to the best game of the day, and we'll run through what I think are the 4 best games, period. Texas, Ohio State, noon kick, big noon leading into it in Columbus. Texas, second straight year on the road against the defending national champions in the Big Ten. Last year was Michigan. They dominated with Quinn Ewers. This year, they're on the road against Ohio State. Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback, Julian Sayin. Still has Jeremiah Smith, the best wide receiver in football. But Texas now breaking in Arch Manning. We'll see whether the hype is real or not in an early season battle. Kelly, I'm taking Texas and the under. I think the Texas defense is going to be the best single unit on the field. I also have a lot of faith in the Ohio State defense, which I think will be the second best unit on the field, meaning I think both of these defenses will be able to make plays against the offenses. Low scoring game. I've got ultimately Texas 27-17. The under hits, and also Texas is my double-sided take on the game of the weekend. Are you touching any of it?
Did lay when it got down to 1.5, back up to 2.5 in some spots. I did lay 1.5 with the Buckeyes. Here's what everybody's going to say. Revenge for Texas. I don't know how you quantify revenge, right? We want to argue that final score was misleading because Texas had first and goal, if everybody remembers, and failed to score with 4 minutes remaining. There was a ton of points scored in that game, so I think you are very brave for taking the under, but I do agree with you here. I think this is going to be an absolute awesome game, but I do think the Buckeyes are going to come up on top. What did I tell you to start the show, Clay? We are fading all of this hype surrounding. If Arch Manning is so good, why was Quinn Ewers the starter last year? Well, some may say Steve Sarkisian is stubborn like that, but now they have the number 1 class of talent coming through, whether it's the recruiting or the transfer portal. I know that every single person I know who does a set of power ratings has Texas number 1. And I'm not going to argue that they don't deserve to be preseason number 1, but I can't wait until this team doesn't win 10 games and this team screws up there down the stretch, or the lights are too bright for a freshman quarterback. Steve Sarkisian has yet to prove to me that he can win the big one. And until he does, I'm fading this team. That is going to be the reality. Again, I understand Quinn Ewers sat right behind, Arch Manning sat right behind Quinn Ewers the last 2 seasons, but I think that was for a reason. We'll see. Lots of crazy reports about the quarterback in Columbus there, saying that he looked shaky, that he's not comfortable in the pocket. We're going to find out on Saturday, but I like the Buckeyes.
So we're on different sides there. The other 3 biggest games, LSU at Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, and Alabama, FSU. I'm going to Alabama, FSU. Looks like it may be a rain game. Makes me even more confident in my 13.5 point plus side with FSU. I'm on Miami. You mentioned winning a big game. Mario Cristobal has not done it at Miami yet. I think he will against Notre Dame. And then LSU, Clemson, 2 really proven strong quarterbacks returning, offensive playmakers. LSU struggles, 5 straight first week losses. Do you have any strong takes on any of those 3 additional biggest games?
I saw on X people giving you recommendations for Tallahassee. I will say, for a capital city, yes, I was really impressed. I went to Notre Dame FSU with my dad a couple of years ago. I think you're really going to enjoy that one. I have no big opinion there. I know lots of sharp guys that took the 13.5 with Florida State. Unfortunately, I've got to see how Florida State is able to rebound from that disastrous season last year. And we'll go from there. As far as LSU Clemson, I don't think there's really any value here. Dabo Sweeney always said, hey, we don't need to do any of these things that the other college football teams are doing. And now he's realized you better go get some kids out of the transfer portal. You got to do more than just recruit. He also got a brand new defensive coordinator from Penn State. So we'll see kind of how that works. But I think that Clemson is going to be improved. A team that I think is getting a lot of love, and I'm not sure why, LSU this year. Brian Kelly getting tons of love in the marketplace. I'm not sure I'm buying it. I'm going to stay away from that game. But one of the games that I did play on this list, I laid 2.5 with Notre Dame last year.
So we're on opposite sides of this one too.
Yep. Mario Cristobal, 9-0. Do you remember? And I bet against him every single week. And I took the money line on the dog every single week. And finally, they lost 3 of their last 4. And they also lost their quarterback to the NFL draft, Cam Ward. It's going to be a Tennessee Titan. But guess what? Miami didn't play a single ranked team the entire regular season. Now they got Carson Beck, who I wasn't high on last year. As you remember, he got hurt in the SEC championship game. Stockton had to come in and win that one for him. Notre Dame, 17-8-1 all time in the series. They returned 14 starters, and they have done something that the Canes have not. They have proven to me that they can win these big games. Hurricanes, 1-13 straight up, 3-11 against the spread since top 10 teams since 2010. One of my biggest preseason plays, Clay, was Miami under 8.5 wins plus 140. I could have got 9.5 minus 150, but I said, no. I want the plus money. Mario Cristobal has not had back-to-back double-digit win seasons in his career. I think the Irish win that one comfortably.
I don't think Notre Dame is explosive enough on offense. I think Carson Beck is going to be recovered and healthy, like the wide receiver talent at Miami for him. Also think, most importantly, one of the reasons you were against Miami so much is their defense was awful. They didn't have issues scoring the football with Cam Ward last year. In fact, they got all over the scoreboard there. They just couldn't stop anybody. And in particular, they couldn't stop anybody when it came to passing. And I think they have, hopefully, in their mind, rectified some of those issues in the secondary. I think it's low scoring. I think they find a way to get past the Irish with what I think will be a somewhat anemic attack. By the way, prior to this year, you could have said everything you just said about Notre Dame always losing the big game. Marcus Freeman came out. They won all the big games. So that'll be a story worth following. My blood bank guarantee, tap the veins, boys and girls, all these picks up at OutKick if you want to track them down. I'm on the under. It might seem a little bit counterintuitive in TCU, UNC. And I'm on the under because I don't think UNC is going to be great on the offensive side of the ball, but I think they'll get better as the year goes on. I think that Bill Belichick defensively will be elite right out of the gates with North Carolina. I can't tell you the Tar Heels are going to be good, but I do think he will fix schematically a lot of the issues on the defensive side of the ball, much like Nick Saban did when he came back from the Dolphins back to Alabama. People who remember that, Alabama wasn't great on defense like they would become, but they were much improved just schematically. They got lined up correctly. They were in the right defense, all 11 players. I think Bill Belichick will be pretty good on defensive side of the ball. And I think they will not be great on offense. I think they take the air out of the game. I love the under. What more do you like?
So I did play the 6 with Northwestern. I think they have a real shot to win outright. I know Jake Ratz looked really good with BYU last year, but did he? Didn't even have 60% completion rating through 12 picks. Plus, he joined the Green Wave late in the summer. I also took the 6 with UTEP. I know that sounds like a below the radar type game, but it was a team that I was looking for to try to win a game outright. So that's pretty much my whole list, Clay. Taking it easy here. 8 picks for week 1. It's going to go low and slow. Not like you where I'm just going to completely just, hammer the board. Like you just
fire in every direction. I'm ready for the games. I cannot wait. Kelly will be back next Thursday. Anything else you would say for people as we roll out here?
No, I'm excited for a new season of the Fade. I hope you guys follow or fade accordingly.
I hope we win you some money because last year I was awful. This year I'm hoping to do better. I'm Clay Travis. She's Kelly Stewart, aka Kelly in Vegas. This has been The Fade.